Ladies, if you've been loving this podcast, then what I'm about to tell you is going to feel like a divine appointment. The Nourished Woman Project is opening its doors officially next month. And trust me, you want in. This is not just another health group or trendy wellness circle. This is a faith-fueled, science-backed, community-driven movement where we link arms as women to take back our health, reclaim our energy, balance our hormones, reset our metabolism, and get to the root of why our bodies feel like they're breaking down, all while keeping our eyes on Jesus. Inside, you get access to monthly live Q&A calls with me to get your questions answered, Bible studies and book clubs so we grow in faith as we heal. You'll get meal plans, recipes, discounts on lab tests and supplements, a private community of like-minded women not on social media, so there's no noise, no comparison traps, just true connection. We'll have guest experts, challenges, resources, and guidance you won't get anywhere else. This is for the woman who is tired of being gaslit by the system, who is sick of being told her labs are normal when she knows something's off, who wants to heal her body God's way, not Big Pharma's way. And for a limited time, we're opening the doors with founding member pricing, so you lock in the lowest rate we'll ever offer. So go to our link in the show notes and get on the wait list now, because I promise you're going to want to say, I was here from the beginning. I'll see you inside the Nourished Woman Project. Are you overwhelmed by all the conflicting health advice out there and feel like the healthcare system has failed you? You're not alone. I'm Carrie Hicks, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner on a mission to help you understand that your body is designed to heal when you align with God's blueprint for life and health. Each week, we'll uncover practical tools and faith-based truths to help you renew your faith, restore your health, and reclaim the vibrant life God intended for you. It starts with building a nourished foundation, and it starts now. Let's get going. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Nourished Foundations, where we focus on God's original design for life and health. And I hope you stick with me today and excuse my voice. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, but lucky for us, I'm not going to be doing most of the talking today because we have a beautiful guest. Today we have with us Joanna Rutherford, and she is a certified mindset and wellness coach and brain retraining specialist dedicated to helping ambitious women break free from chronic stress, burnout, and health struggles. She's the founder of the Revive and Thrive Brain Retraining Program, and she empowers women to heal from chronic fatigue, inflammation, food sensitivities, gut issues, insomnia, and other stress-related symptoms without elimination diets, supplements, or more procedures. She's got certifications in coaching, brain retraining, listening prayer ministry, and relational brokenness. Joanna combines neuroscience-backed techniques with faith-based principles to help women rewire their brains, calm their nervous systems, and restore their health. Her 3-step framework has helped clients overcome autoimmune symptoms, anxiety, and physical pain while regaining their energy, joy, and confidence. Now, I know when I'm out of my pay grade and helping people really work on calming nervous systems and brain rewiring, I mean, that is not in my wheelhouse, but it's something that I have definitely recognized as a missing piece in some of my clients' healing journeys. So Joanna, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being with us today. How are you? How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be here and just be a part of your program and learn more about what you all do.
Well, I mean, what you do, I'm learning is it's so important and such a big piece of this healing puzzle because, I talk about this a lot with my listeners that, I can do all the labs. We can run all those labs and we can take all those supplements. But if you're not working on this component, it's really tough to get to where you're trying to go. So can you tell us, I would love for you to share your story because you've got a real pain to purpose story here. And I would just love for you to share with everybody how you got here and then how you do what you do.
Sure. Okay, so I have three grown boys. When my oldest boy was young, preschoolish, he started having all kinds of health issues. Um, we did mainstream medicine, which didn't work. We did alternative doctors, thousands of dollars, supplements. He was allergic to just almost every food. We were down to like two foods, allergic to outside stressors, different things. The poor child, it was way before gluten-free was in the grocery stores and all the things. Rolling on the floor in stomach pain, throat closing, behavior issues, multiple things that went with that. And, you know, no one wants to see their child suffer. And we couldn't find anything. We were trying to manage symptoms with diet and ridiculous amounts of supplements and all the things. And I just went to the Lord and said, I can't imagine that we can't eat at least the whole foods that you made for us. Like, this just doesn't make sense to me. Help me understand this. And I just did a lot of research. I found a ministry that spoke to me and made sense. I looked up Christian medicine. I'm going to mention the ministry because they've been so helpful to me over the last 17, 18 years, called Be in Health, out of Thomaston, Georgia. Dr. Henry Wright was a minister. He had been praying people for healing for years. And he said, you know what, like 2% people actually get healed when I pray for them. Feel like I'm selling a load of something that doesn't work. I need to take some time off, figure this out. He took 2 years off, studied the Bible, trying to understand, what does it say about disease, health, all the things. He came out of that. He does have like a pre-med background. So he came out of that with so much knowledge and started his ministry. And so I learned his tools and his teachings that I feel like are biblically sound, and I've been involved with them ever since. After learning and being taught by them, I took a lot of responsibility as my child was too young to do the work. After I did the work, my child came out healed, and it changed our life. He was able to eat all the foods, eat things at school, preschool, and it was life-changing for us. So fast forward about 15, 18 years, whatever, I began to get ill. I had a big business downtown. We'd renovated a building. I was running probably 5 different businesses under one roof. We had family health issues. You know, everybody has problems. Everybody, I'm not a victim here. It's just life. People have life things. They happen. Kind of had a perfect storm with trying to run my business. I had, my mom was about to be widowed for the second time, 3 teenage boys. There were just multiple things happening all at once. And I started to feel my body break down. And I knew it was coming from the stress of the business and all the things. I just couldn't get a handle on it. And it just kept snowballing, and to the point I had an RA, rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis, CFS, chronic fatigue. I was beginning to become intolerant to multiple foods, which all that happens when you start learning about autoimmune, things just kind of snowball. So I couldn't get above it, and just ended up having to sell my business. And God just brought someone in, took me out of that. Thankfully, I went home to heal. But what I found is I wasn't healing. And I went back to the ministry of things that I had learned years ago with my son, and they all made sense. I just couldn't get it to work. I couldn't find the structure, whatever I was doing wrong, I couldn't figure it out. So when I started my research again, I stumbled across, probably God, limbic system impairment. I started reading about that, the neuroscience behind it, all the things I was dealing with, and where the roots of those came from. When I blended this, what they would call brain retraining, and I'll explain where that comes from and why. When I blended with what they taught with the ministry, what's biblical, it was just like, wow, okay, this makes sense. I've read this in the Bible. I understand it. But when you put the science behind it, the neuroscience behind it, it's like, oh, God had this all planned out. I just didn't realize what the blueprint was here. And yeah, so blending those two tools together, I was able to heal myself of RA, CFS, food allergies, all different types of things.
That is a pain to purpose story. that is amazing. And I love when science just proves what God is already telling us. And it's funny that as humans, we need that so-called proof, right? But he is amazing and so good. And the Bible tells us, right? I mean, how many times does the Bible tell us, not to fear,
Yes,
not to worry? I mean, it's absolutely amazing. So, what does that? What does that look like now in your practice? Like, how do you utilize that? And can you explain kind of that rewiring program a little bit?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned how many times does he mention fear? I believe 365 times, which is at least once a day, right?
Like it's a command, right? It's not a suggestion. In the Bible, it's a command. Do not fear.
Which means we're struggling with it every day. So he knew that. Yeah. So just to back up a little bit, what is happening with the limbic system? What is happening with the brain to retraining the whole neuroscience kind of thing? So the way I understand and explain it is whether we've been through a surgery, an accident, a trauma, a long-term chronic stress event, the brain is designed to protect us. God created that fight or flight mechanism for us to keep us safe, and it's built in. And we have that for if we're being chased by a bear, we're trying to pick a car off of somebody in an accident, something traumatic happens that we need that. But we're designed, as you know, to move out of that fight or flight and back into rest and digest when the crisis is over. So
and I see a lot of women stuck.
Yes.
In the testing that I do, it shows kind of where you're at with your autonomic nervous system. And I see some, like I myself was stuck in that fight or flight, that sympathetic side. Most women I work with have like kind of crashed and burned to an unhealthy parasympathetic state, and they can't even respond and get out of that to sympathetic when they need to now. So I love that you're explaining this.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. That's what happens. And we get stuck in that, and that can look different for each person. You hear about fight, flight, or freeze. There are different characteristics of those. We kind of float in and out of all different ones of those, different symptoms that we can mention about those. But overall, like you said, when we get stuck there, we can go into what they call the exhaustion stage, which I think is what you were saying.
Yeah.
And the body can become obviously exhausted, and it opens it up to all other types of disease. But also being stuck in that stage can begin to create a crosswiring, I guess we call it. We call it limbic system crosswire, where that system in our brain, it's in that limbic system. Limbic system is made up of 3 parts of the brain. It's where emotions are. It's where the fight or flight is. It's also programming for the rest of the body. So that gets stuck there where it shouldn't be past the time where we've not gone back into rest and digest. The body and the brain can be exhausted, but it can cause that limbic system that programs to have some cross wiring. So sending false messages to the body, thinking that it's protecting us, thinking that we're stuck in this survival mode. So what happens is when it's trying to protect us, it's doing its job. It doesn't need joy. It doesn't need a lot of our cognitive function, so brain fog. It doesn't need a lot of things. So it focuses all of its energy on protecting us. So when I mentioned earlier, a lot of us that had some type of autoimmune or food sensitivity or pain, it can continue to create more of those. So it's like a whack-a-mole thing. Oh, you're going to fix this? Well, let me present this symptom. Oh, you're going to fix that symptom? Well, let me present this symptom. Why? Because it thinks it's protecting us. Foods, environmental stressors, molds, different chemicals. So you're not going to eat that food. Okay, well, let me present a different food. And it thinks it's protecting us against all the threats that it's scanning for all day long. It doesn't realize it's making us sicker. So our job as brain retraining trainers is to teach the brain to calm down and shut that fight or flight switch off and teach the brain safety. That takes some time and effort and consistency, but it can be done. And then train the brain to rebalance the body. So to eat those foods that we think we're allergic to, we're not really intolerant. It's the brain sending false messages to the body. It's not outside circumstances. It's the brain thinking it's keeping it safe and sending false messages to the body. So I've seen this with myself with rheumatoid arthritis, the exhaustion that comes with chronic fatigue, pain that's chronic, whether, say someone's had a surgery or an accident, the body should be healed. It heals in a certain amount of time, but the chronic pain still continues and there's not really a reason for it. A lot of times that pain also can move around. So some of the indicators are we're having pain in our knee one day or for a week or a month or 6 months. And the next thing you know, it's in your hip and the pain in your knee is gone. So why did that happen? Makes no sense because the brain is moving things around. So when we retrain the brain, we teach it to calm down, turn that switch off, retrain the body to feel safe. So as you mentioned, the nervous system. So the brain is connected to the nervous system, to the gut, to everything, to every cell in our body. It goes all the way back to every thought we think impacts our body in some way, positive or negative. The more we can educate our brain, the more we can train it and teach it to balance.
This is so fascinating to me right now, especially because I'm in a mitochondrial restoration course right now. And I'm also studying kind of bioenergetics, how the body, we are not just this bag of, chemicals or a machine like modern medicine is like treats us. And right now we're learning about the cell danger response. So I don't know if you've dug into any of that, but it's literally your mitochondrial's response to danger. And how do we make our mitochondria feel safe? So it just makes so much sense. Everything you're saying, is from, the brain, the signals that it's giving to your body's like, okay, we don't need to procreate right now. We don't even need food right now. We don't need to grow hair on our head right now. Like literally it's just trying to be safe.
Yes.
And so how do you go forward with that? Because I know from the viewpoint we're working with the cell danger response, it's really identifying like what is there trauma, like is it emotional? Because your body doesn't really care or understand the difference between the stressors, right? It looks at stress the same way. So whether you're freaking out over something that just happened in your family dynamics, or your body, is like, oh, we're running from a tiger, like, right. The stress response is the same in the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how that works? And so it's just fascinating how the body works to protect us always, but we think it is working against us, or it's broken, or it's attacking us.
Yes.
So how do you see that show up on your side, and how do you work with that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, when we start to see, I have a family member I'm caring for, this has happened. So we fix one thing and the next thing pops up. The brain would rather us focus on physical sensations than emotional sensations. And so when we know when physical sensations pop up, what is going on emotionally? Now, granted, if you're in the middle of a crisis, like you said, you're being chased by a bear, yeah, the emotion of fear is there, got it. But in a regular day, that's not happening. But the brain is still responding in the same way. So if we're having symptoms in the body, I try to teach my gals what's going on emotionally, because the brain would rather have you focus on the physical symptoms than the emotional symptoms. And so what I've seen in other programs, and not to, it's fine. So a little bit about me, I have FOMO, like I need to know as much as I can find out.
Me
And so
too.
I've studied multiple programs as much as I can get my hands on, and I've blended everything I can find into my program. One of those things is releasing negative emotions, or negative thoughts, I should say, because we can do all the affirmations all day long, and
Yeah.
that helps, and I teach that. But if we have a thought pattern that's been there for years, that's just where our brain goes. That's where our thought pattern goes when we're triggered, or something that causes fear or rejection or bitterness, or the things that the Bible asks us to work on, right? We may not even know subconsciously that that's the pattern that our brain just goes to. So we may have this pattern of thinking, a neural pathway that feels easy, and that's just where we go, but that's not serving us. So before I teach, let's make a new pathway, a new affirmation, a new positive thought. Let's teach the brain to release this thought first. And I feel like that's a huge step that's talked about in a lot of programs, but it's like, how do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
And I do have some very specific steps on, let's release this thought that's not serving us, and then let's start a new thought pathway that feels good to the brain, and teach it that this is the pattern that we take. The brain likes repetition and familiarity. It doesn't like change. And I'll be real honest, the brain does not like us to retrain it. And so the sooner we start noticing the difference between our mind and our brain, I may have mentioned this to you earlier, it's humorous to me. I start finding that I'm trying to retrain my brain. I'm trying to think the thoughts God wants me to think. I'm trying to do all the things. And then the brain will just shoot you out on a squirrel trail and take you down a path. And 30 minutes later, you realize, I didn't want to be thinking about that for 30 minutes. But the brain, that's the familiarity path. That's where it wants to go. That's where it's trained. And so the more we know, the faster we can catch those thoughts. We can redirect those thoughts. We can release those thoughts. And in my program, replace the thoughts.
First of all, I had no idea that the body would rather focus on physical than emotional. So that's really interesting. And it also makes sense. But and I feel like you just described my prayer time. Like I try to focus and prayer, and then all of a sudden I'm like over here thinking about my to-do list or something ridiculous. And so is that the brain's way of like protecting us from something? Or do you feel like, I mean, sometimes I feel like it's literally, I mean, distraction is, I feel like, the enemy's greatest tool. And I know I deal a lot with distraction. I'm a big squirrel girl over here, and I also have FOMO. So just like you, I'm putting all the pieces together for my program, trying to figure out what makes sense. But that's all really interesting. So is that just a protection mechanism?
So I would say it's two things. 100% the enemy, and our brain is flesh, right? So I feel
Yes.
like I can't locate this anywhere, but I'm just going to say I think our minds are our spirit and our brains are our flesh, but I just made that up. So that's how I think of it. And I also think our minds are our heart. You do some study of things come out of our heart and how that's all connected physiologically.
Well, in scripture, how many times does scripture tell us to renew our minds?
Yes.
Renew our minds like that. I think as Christians, that is our job daily, to renew our mind and focus our minds and our hearts on Christ, on our identity in Christ, like who we are. And then I know for me, that's made a huge difference in getting out of, I guess, negative thought patterns or identities, thinking negatively about myself, when I realize that I am a daughter of the King, that I am seated at the right hand in the heavenly realms currently, that just really helps shift your thinking entirely. It kind of takes a big load off.
Yes.
There's a big relief. There's a big, I'm not like a proud thing, but just like wow, okay, if this is who I am, this frees me up.
Mm-hmm.
I can let go of all of this other stuff. It doesn't have to weigh me down. I'm not chained to it, and it allows me to operate differently.
Absolutely. And yeah, so to that point of fear, worry, anxiety, distraction, like you just said, the brain is trying to serve us and protect us by trying to solve all the problems and scan for all the potential threats coming up. And so we find ourselves squirreling. But like you said, if we're taking truth to heart, God says, take no thought for tomorrow. There's enough to worry about today.
Yes.
So what does that look like when you're training your brain? When we have 30 thoughts on our to-do list, and like you said, the grocery list, and we're trying to meditate on scripture, and our brain is making a list of everything that we need to do today. So we're fighting with flesh, we're fighting with the enemy, but absolutely what you said, using God's word as truth and power. And the more we meditate on that, even study it out, it is power. It helps us change our mind. It helps us renew our mind.
Yeah. And I know, I mean, this is a faith-based podcast, and I'm trying, my program is faith-based because honestly, I don't know how people do this work without him and without that truth. And I don't know how people get long-lasting results and real change without doing it through the guy upstairs, the one who made us, and really relying on Jesus's sacrifice for us and understanding that. And so I just love that you've combined all of this work. So can you tell us, do you want to tell us a little bit like what your program really looks like? Because I feel like, when I met you, I was like, oh, this woman and I, we are made from the same mold. And you and I were like, we're looking for all the answers. We don't want to tell anybody the wrong thing. We want to guide people in the right direction. And I know my basic training, even with FDN, while it's a really great basis and it gives me an understanding of the systems in the body and, the hormones, all that stuff, I've just come to realize they're still treating the symptoms that they're calling root causes. Hormone imbalance is not a root cause. Parasites are not a root cause. So for me, I have found that it comes down to how are we living in this world? What identity are we living in here? Who are we living for? And then how did God truly make our body? How did he make our minds to work? How like these cells in our mitochondria, and we're actually made of energy and light, and how does that all work together? And so that's where I'm going. I'm like, great. Now we're going to biophysics and quantum biology, not what I ever prepared myself for, but that's where he's taking me, and I love where he's taking you. So can you just kind of talk about all the I guess the rabbit holes you've gone down and what you're putting together and how he's helped you build this program that is just so different?
Sure. And I agree with you 100%. And I'm more surface level. You're way down there in the mitochondria physiological study that I can't get into the weeds of that, but I can talk about it more on a surface level, the way I understand it. We talk about as a man thinks he is. That's
so true.
Huge. What are we thinking about? That dictates who we are. It really does. And some other scriptures of meditate on those things that are good and lovely and virtuous and kind, and do what you see me doing. Okay, he doesn't say why to do it, but let me tell you, there are power-packed results from doing that.
That's funny you just said that, because literally 2 days ago I was thinking about that. I was like, a lot of that scripture and the way God treats us, it's like we treat our children. Just do as I say, because I understand what's happening in your life, and I understand the big picture and what this is going to do for you. Quit asking why and just do it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what he's telling us sometimes. Just stop overthinking it and worrying about it, and just do as I say.
100%. And there's so much wisdom and healing and power in his word that it just blows me away. And I'm sure I'm just barely, touching the surface of it. But as I try to blend those types of things, so when he says, do not fear, and the stress response is a fear response. It is. Fear, anxiety, and stress all come from the root of fear. So he knew we were going to struggle with that on a daily basis. Okay, well, the more we educate ourselves, the more understanding we have, the more tools we can use to calm that down. So biblically, do not fear. Okay, I can tell myself, do not fear all day long. Okay, how can I not fear? So trying to back that up with some other tools. Well, when we use that other scripture of meditate on these things that are good and lovely, kind, do the things that you see me do, what does that do neurologically, biologically? What it does is it causes your brain to increase those chemicals, that dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. When we meditate on joyful memories, it almost forces our brain to secrete those really good chemicals. When we secrete those really good chemicals, it helps to calm down the other chemicals that cause us to be in fight or flight. So cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, we need those, but we don't need them to be secreting at such a high level that we're stuck in this chronic stress response. And, people that can't sleep at night, their brain's racing because they cannot get it to calm down and shut off. So some of the tools that I teach, and I have multiple, go through the whole entire program, but how to teach the brain to calm those dose chemicals down, increase the dose, calm down the can, huge. And the brain doesn't want to do that when it's in survival mode. It's like, don't talk to me about those chemicals. I don't want to be joyful right now. I'm trying to save your life, kind of thing. So we almost have to force it into that state to where it's secreting those so that we can get it to calm down those ones that are really causing us issues, the adrenaline, cortisol kind of thing. Some other things. So you're talking about body, emotions kind of being lodged in the body. One of the big words right now is somatic. Somatic means body. And I do talk about that in my program. I do believe that emotions do lodge in our body. I do think that we can move some of those out with movement, stretch, different things, breath work, just calming down. I teach somatic tracking. It's a big fat word for let's calm down, notice where things are in our body, and just allow them to be without responding.
Kind of like a body, other titles, like a body scan.
Yeah, and there's something called, so a lot of chronic pain specialists use this methodology called outcome independence, where we're just a curious observer of what's going on in our mind, emotionally, and in our body. Teaching our mind that we don't have to respond in fear or any other negative way. We can just notice that it's there and not have a response. And that's important. It's especially been really helpful in chronic pain sufferers. It's a methodology that they use to teach the brain not to not be triggered, not go into fear, not have all these other emotions that come with, oh, I just noticed this thing happening. Oh my gosh, it's happening again. I'm having pain. But to teach the brain, it's okay. We can have big emotions. We can have big sensations in the body. That's okay. I'm still safe. I'm still safe. And so one of the things that we notice with this is that the brain trying to keep us safe, here's one for me. I could be out somewhere having a great time. I could be at a Purdue game, watching a basketball game, cheering all the people. And then I feel the thought creep in, I should just go home and get on the couch and get under my fuzzy blanket. That's where I want to be. Okay, where did that thought come from? My brain wants me to go back to chronic fatigue on the couch in safety in my home. So I have to teach my brain, I don't need to be laying on the couch getting extra sleep. Now, naps are fine, whatever. I don't need to lay on the couch to be safe. I don't need to be in my house to be safe. I'm at this Purdue game. I'm having a great time. I'm in the moment. Why am I thinking about going home and get under my fuzzy blanket? It's the brain being fearful of whatever, being out in public, being in a social situation, getting too tired, not conserving enough energy. So those are the sneaky little things that can happen with the brain. And so when we talk about the outcome independence, it's okay. I can have a little fatigue. I can have a little pain in my knee, whatever. I'm okay. I'm still safe. I don't have to run home and lay on the couch and hide from society. I'm okay. So that's just one tool among many that I try to teach, how to keep the brain out of that, what it thinks it's protecting me at all times, because it's doing its job. It just needs to calm down and not create all these scenarios that it thinks it's saving me from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so fascinating to me. And I think just the awareness, just being aware of this, because it gives you a degree of separation, right? And it gives you time to respond and not react. And then maybe think about, okay, what would God say about this? What does God say about this particular thing? And how can I redirect? And so I love that, just being aware. And then a word that has been, the last few years in our society, I feel like almost overused, but I know it's a real thing and it's important, is the big T, the trauma, right? And I own a hair salon. I still am behind the chair a couple days a week, and I hear younger women throw this word around like it just boggles my mind. Now, granted, I am Gen X. I am 52 years old, and we were never taught to even allow emotions really to come up. If you say the word trauma, like you're being a drama queen. And so when I hear so many people talking about this, honestly, at first I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. These people just need to get over themselves, right? And the more that I've learned and dug into this, I'm like, good for them and good for people now being able to recognize this stuff and set some boundaries in their life, because I was not taught that. My generation, I feel like most of us, we just have been hit so hard because we were not really given tools for that. We were just told you had to, toughen up. You're being dramatic and knock it off. And I know I still, I think fall into that. Like, oh, I can't talk about these things because it's not important or not, I don't know. It's just so interesting. So do you deal a lot with that? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So agreed. I grew up the same. I'm a little older than you, but grew up same way. I think emotions are important. I think we have to investigate them. I think that we don't have to dwell on what the triggers are, the traumas are. But I think if we have tools to handle them, one of the tools I teach is incremental training. And that's just to teach the brain to reassociate triggers. So we might get triggered by a social situation or a certain person or something that reminded us of a trauma. But the brain does not have to respond in fear or anger or whatever. It can respond how we train it to, but we have to train it to reassociate so that when that trigger happens, we don't automatically think and feel this certain thing. Not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah. Well, and triggers, cause that's another word, like
Yeah,
I'm
right
triggered, like, yeah, it's huge right now. But I mean, it is a real thing. I've experienced that plenty of times in my life with different scenarios, and it's always a very visceral reaction for me, like that stomach flip or that adrenaline spike, and knowing how to respond to that in a healthy way would be so helpful. and because I know triggers are real, but I feel like that has been way maybe overused and even diluted to where I think they're not honoring true emotional triggers. Like just, okay, so something upset you a little bit doesn't mean it's a trigger, right? So can you explain how that works in the body?
Like,
yeah.
What we use it as an excuse or a reason to avoid versus working through what's happening. I think I've seen that where, oh, this is my trigger, and then everyone should scatter and leave. I don't believe, like, I think there are certain traumas, sure, abuse, all those things, but using any trigger to just escape, I think there becomes an emotional maturity that we need to learn at some level to start dealing with triggers versus just cutting people and things out of our lives.
Ooh, I love that. And I think another thing for me, when I have a reaction like that, I feel like in today's society, a lot of times what happens is we blame the other person or the thing, like, you're doing this to me. And I've had to learn to recognize, like, okay, why am I responding this way? What is happening inside me, or what are my past experiences that are contributing to this? And then where am I responsible? Where am I responsible for this? And how do I respond differently? So, so I feel like we could use a little more of that in our world.
And then in the coaching world, this is probably more coaching speak, but when you give your power away to someone else based on their behavior. So
oh, yeah.
When we stop allowing someone else's behavior to dictate how we feel and think, we take our power back, right?
Yeah. And that's another place where working on my identity has really helped me, because where, like, I can feel like somebody else's response to me in a certain way. And I'll think about, like, okay, where is this coming from? Where's my responsibility? But I also know that sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm okay, because this is who I am. Right. This is who I am. And if this person doesn't recognize that yet, or is not used to me showing up in this way yet, that's okay. Mm-hmm. That's okay. I'm not responsible for that, for their reaction. Right. And so that's been a big lesson also. So I feel
you're not responsible for their thoughts and feelings, although as long as you're, doing the best you can, you're responsible for your thoughts and feelings.
Yes. And so I feel like I need to go through your program.
And I think combined, we're doing really well.
Yeah. Well, my membership is getting ready to launch, and I know I'm going to bring guest speakers in. I would love to have you come in and do some work with the members when I get this up and going. I think that would be amazing, because, like you said, like your wheelhouse, I'm not ready to go there yet. I don't know if I ever will be. I think I'll stick with mitochondria for right now. The limbic system is like,
I think you're talking the talk. You might just be calling it something else.
Maybe I'm just like, let's just see what God has to say about this. Let's find the scripture where we talk about this and work on it from that angle. But I I do not have any of the scientific understanding of that background in there really. Um, so if these listeners, somebody's listening and they're like, I this sounds amazing and I need to work with this woman. How can my listeners find you and how can they work with you?
Sure. I'm on pretty much every social media channel: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I have a website, Revision PS, as in professional services, revisionps.org. I have an online course. I do one-to-one coaching sessions. And the most recent fun thing that I'm working on, I'm launching a 30-day boot camp July 1st on an app where I take women through, well, I guess men, but I've always just coached women. It's an app. We're building it right now. It's a 30-day boot camp. I walk with you 2 to 3 times a day. I ask for a 30-minute commitment for 30 days, and I want you to have results. And it doesn't mean you're going to be 100% healed. It means you've learned the habits. You're going to see glimmers, and you may have complete healing results. Not usually, but I have a new client. I have to say this because I'm so blown out of the park with her. She's very matter of fact, doesn't say a lot. I was coaching her the other day. We're about 6 weeks in, and she doesn't really ask a lot of questions. And she's doing so great. She has had fibromyalgia. I'm not saying that she's completely over it, but she's like, I haven't had any signs of it recently. And she's like, I'm just so joyful and happy. My outlook on life is so different. And I said, that is amazing. Like, as quickly as she's gotten results, I said, how much time are you spending on your daily practice? Or how many times are you using one of the tools during the day? And she said, probably 4 to 6 times. Now, that's a lot. I think that's amazing. And anybody that can commit that kind of time, great. But I hadn't had a client completely lose symptoms in 6 weeks. But she had put her mind to it, and she's sailing, and I'm just wowed by her. Another gal had Lyme's disease, same thing, but it took her a little bit longer. So the program, the app that I'm putting together, the 30-day boot camp, is not my online course, not the educational part. It's walking it out every single day, holding your hand. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to be with you 2 to 3 times a day, every day for 30 days. And I'm doing that for $30. So,
Oh my
what
gosh.
can you lose?
Yeah, nothing. That sounds absolutely amazing. And what's the youngest age that you would work with? Because I am having a client show up from like age 12 up. And these young girls in today's world, especially, I just think if they could get a hold of these tools now and understand this at this level, what I mean, what a tremendous change or effect that could have on their life.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen children go through secular programs that I've been a part of and get healing. I would think 12 for me would probably be the lower end. But here's a really huge phenomena that happened. I told you in the beginning that I did the work, and my son, he was fourth grade. What was that, 8 or 9-ish? And he was too young to really do the work. But he gained the benefit. He was healed. So what we see biblically, spiritually, but also scientifically, so secular programs see the same thing. When the parent does the work, the child is healed, and they call it mirroring, or the mirroring effect. They don't have a huge explanation for it. They go more into quantum physics and say their cells and the energy is mimicking from parent to child. It's probably more your wheelhouse to understand that than me. But It's the same thing spiritually. When we take responsibility for a child who there's not age of accountability to do the work, we tend to see the same healing in the parent as the child. And that's not to say it's the parent's fault. Hear me out on that. That's not what I'm saying. But to throw another biblical principle in that I do talk about is generational things being passed down generationally. And the Bible does talk about 3 to 4 generations. So it could be a fear from great grandma that came down on grandchild. We don't know exactly, but the parent does have the authority to break that and help break those thought patterns. So throwing that tool in there as well. But back to the point of these gals that are 12 and older, and they're dealing with cultural things and all kinds of identity. They're trying to figure out who they are, on top of, have they inherited anything? So we kind of combine all that together.
Wow, that is so fascinating. And it does absolutely make sense. But I also love that, even in prayer, we get to be intercessors. Mm-hmm. So that kind of all makes sense to me. Wow, that's powerful. Okay. So, and I have a list that you've given me that I'm going to put in the show notes for everybody, all you listeners, of the ways that you can find Joanna, where you can find her and how you can work with her. And Joanna, I think you and we need to get together and put this cell danger response and how the body, really the goal is to make the body feel safe.
Yes.
Right? How do we make the body feel safe? Because that's what you're talking about, and everything that you're doing, that's the ultimate goal. That's what you're trying to do. And I'm trying to do it over here from this biochemistry or bioenergetic place. How do we make the body feel safe? And then that's where healing takes place. And I feel like the more I learn this, healing doesn't happen until the body feels safe.
Yes.
And then it's amazing. And a lot of the, not the symptoms or even the diagnoses that you're talking about, like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, autoimmune issues, there are different stages of that cell danger response. And there are different symptoms and diagnoses that are listed in those phases, and the body gets stuck in one of the phases. And so it just makes sense that when you're doing this work, from the brain and mental and emotional, that translates into the cells, and then the cells can shift out of one of those phases. So everything you're talking about today, I'm over here putting it into this cell danger response place. I feel like we need to collaborate on something there to where we can explain it, even maybe to our clients, on each of our clients and each of our practices, and help people understand that. Because I know for me, and it's just we're talked earlier with God telling us, this is what you need to do. And we're like, okay, yeah. But until we understand the why it's so important and how it works, I think that's when we're willing to make the commitment and put the time and the effort in. So I would love to work with you and put something together that we could have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. Super excited. Love it.
Joanna, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today and your knowledge and your expertise and sharing with my listeners, because this is, like I said, not my wheelhouse. So I just appreciate other practitioners and the work that you guys do. And I love that we get to collaborate and work together and all for his glory and the kingdom, and help Christians be healthy so they can get out there and do the work that God has intended for them, right? That's the goal.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you so much. And everybody, thanks for tuning in this week. Like I said, check the show notes. I'll have all of Joanna's information in there. And if any of this resonated with you, be sure to check out her new app that's coming out. I'll somehow get with her and we'll figure out how to get that information to you for the app. And I mean, $30 for 30 days, you guys, come on, we can't beat that. And especially I think moms of young women, of young girls, I think If we can give them these tools now, let's do it. So thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Nourished Foundations podcast. I hope you feel empowered and equipped to take the next step in your health journey. If you loved today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs encouragement. Are you looking for more support? Visit our website at carriehicks.com to learn how to work with me one-on-one, or check out our group coaching program, The Nourished Woman Project, where you'll gain access to exclusive resources, live coaching, meal plans, and a faith-filled community of women just like you, ready to take charge of their health. Thanks again for listening. Have a nourished and blessed week.